Okay, now we're going to recap the Gator-O-Rama at MSR Houston. Now, the last time we were in Texas, earlier this year, there was a blizzard. So the weather was great this time, and that became important because Team Blue Goose, who's raced with us forever in their Audi 4000S Quattro, were fixated on this idea that they needed bad weather to win because then the Quattro would be their unfair advantage.
This time their unfair advantage was they finally didn't suck.
True dat. Hella sweet, big purple Oldsmobile. We totally encourage this.
Hella sweet for this race, another veteran team, the Cajun Coonasses and their Saturn.
The Coonasses are back.
Yeah, so they were running first overall. They were leading by like 2 laps halfway through day one, but then they crashed, and in the process of them crashing, they wiped out the Model T GT, but they brought it in, they fixed it, and then they were driving around, they clawed their way back into the top 10, and then they crashed again and their wheel fell off.
How is that hella sweet?
That's a good point. Legitimately sweet, a gremlin, a genuine Levi package gremlin. So somebody traded this thing in 1979 on a new car, ironically at the AMC dealer. I don't know why you'd make that mistake twice, but they did. It sat at the dealer until like 6 months ago. Nobody wanted this car until 2015. So these guys, they got it. They brought it out to LeMons. They put a little bit of, gremlin speed equipment on it. There is no such thing, technically. And Judge Steve was like, "Oh, that's a cheater car. I'm giving you 25 laps." 25 laps to a gremlin. Anyway, these guys, they were great. They took the car around. It was so not fast. And it was hella sweet.
Okay, so we had this car. It was a Mercedes-Benz SL600 V12.
So spectacular.
And somehow this thing kind of flew under the radar all weekend, I think for 3 reasons. 1, a refined Mercedes driving silently around the racetrack. 2, nobody questions anymore whether a 20-year-old V12 Mercedes is a $500 car.
We all know that's a free car.
And 3, it was hella butt-ass slow, but all of that was just incredibly awesome. The car was hella sweet.
So Speedy Monzales re-themed their horrible Monza as a turkey, Thanksgiving turkey.
A Racin Turkey.
A Racin Turkey. And amazingly, this car, which has always been incredibly slow, so fast. All we heard all week was, "Man, you know what's really fast? The turkey."
I got screwed, went to Ratsun Racing and their Datsun B210. Now, we've seen this car before. It's called the 210ZX, and it's actually a B210 Honeybee with a period fiberglass sports body kit. And it's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. We've covered it in the past, and the car has always sucked
so
horribly.
So hard.
And this time, not only did that car suck, but they have a second car, a Juggalambo Pontiac Grand Prix GTP 3800 Supercharged, which actually it caught on fire. But that notwithstanding, the Ratsun actually ran great, and the reason they got screwed is ordinarily they would have won some major award for this incredible accomplishment, but there was so much other great stuff at this event that they kind of got left in the lurch, so they got screwed.
Special award, the Judge Sajeev Manly Truck Award. Now, Judge Sajeev, he's Texan. He drives a real manly truck, so he got to choose the most macho Texas manly truck.
Ford Ranger.
Judge's choice for this race went to Orca Racing. Now, this is a new team, but it's a new 2-car team. They bought a Porsche 914 that has raced in California for years and years, so they bought that. They dragged it out to Texas. That wasn't good enough, so they also bought like a 2003 Cadillac CTS, which immediately blew up in practice. So anyway, these guys are not from the area, but the one guy on the team, his parents live in Houston. They say, "Hey, Mom and Dad, can we come over and maybe use your driveway to work on our stuff?" And the Cadillac and the Porsche just exploded into their driveway, and it was the most horrific scene ever. And so the Cadillac, they couldn't fix it. It never turned a lap. But the Porsche, they got it like 95% of the way there, and the only thing they needed was some part for an oil cooler for a VW pancake 4-cylinder engine.
There's this Volkswagen bus running, because, like, why wouldn't there be, right?
Obviously.
Yeah, so they're going around, and what happens with a Volkswagen bus? It blows up. It scatters parts all over the place. Well, we're done. Well, no, they're not done, because there's a guy racing a Capri who used to race a Carmen Ghia, and he comes over and says, "You can have my old Carmen Ghia motor." Well, what's he going to do with it? Okay, so he puts the Carmen Ghia motor in there. That's like, I don't know, a Type 1, and they had a Type 4, and I don't know any of this crap, right? But it doesn't matter, because the key is, now the bus no longer needed the secret little part to make the 914 run. It was kismet. So everybody got their cars together, and they was very happy, except, the CTS never ran again.
Well, and the bus didn't exactly ever run again either. Organizer's choice went to Wino Racing, and these guys are slowly becoming a fixture at LeMons races. They've been to Colorado, they've been to Texas, they've been to Sebring, a good bunch of guys. Anyway, they've got a Toyota Solara, relatively modern, relatively nice-looking race car, and there are some people who get a little, I can get that for $500. Yeah, well, guess what? There's a 4-cylinder automatic, devastatingly slow Toyota Solara loophole, and you feel free to take advantage at your next race. Anyway, they were being their usual cheerful, fun-to-be-around selves, and then they added the layer of doing a total appreciation thing for the corner workers and track staff. They did a huge barbecue on Saturday night and invited everybody to come, and it was really great, and that's totally what LeMons is all about. Organizer's choice.
Heroic Fix went to this Cutlass Supreme, so they showed up with the worst cage ever seen. If you took the How Not to Fail guide and just went through all the things not to do, they did all of them. Head of tech there, Jeff, said, well, you can't run it. Now, usually a team will make their failure to perform somehow into our problem. Not these guys. They said, okay, tell us what to do. We'll go fix it. They went away. They came back the next day. Beautiful cage, replaced their seat, got everything running, and they had no problems for the rest of the weekend.
Except for their 23-mile-an-hour top speed.
Okay, that brings us to the index of Effluency, which went to NSF Racing and their Chrysler Sebring convertible. Now, before we even get to the race part, when we got to Texas, somebody told us, hey, you know what's near the track? An all-nude BYOB strip club. The special guest performer was a stripper of smaller stature. It was Bridget the Midget.
Bridget the Midget.
NSF Racing, they're from Cocoa, Florida, and this kind of entertainment is really just the norm for them.
Par for the course.
Yeah, and so they all piled into their rental Dodge Journey, drove straight to that BYOB strip club, and they saw the show, and they got us an autographed Bridget the Midget portrait.
It was very handsome.
Okay, now on to the race. They brought their Chrysler Sebring convertible, which they bought 2 years ago to run at our one race at Sebring International Raceway in Sebring, Florida. We, of course, had the promotional deal where if you brought a Sebring to Sebring, you got in for free.
Well, if you were dumb enough to bring a Sebring to Sebring.
Right.
Yeah.
So after that race, they took it back to Cocoa, they parked it in the swamp, and they haven't touched it since. And so about 2 days before this race, they loaded it onto Ron Mann's trailer. He drove all the way from Florida to Texas. They put that thing on the racetrack, and it just went around and around and around and around, and it finished in the top.
Here's LeMons in a nutshell.
So, what's it like being a designated driver for NSF?
No.
Okay.
Is my scrotal area showing on camera?